What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh. This is Overlanding Now, and today I have two very special vehicles with me. I got the Jeep Gladiator and the Jeep Wrangler. And what I want to talk about today is which vehicle is going to be best for you and your family as you start your overland build. I have had the luxury of having both vehicles now for over a year, and I have a lot of things that I want to talk about and the differences between the two and what you can expect if one of these two platforms is something you're looking to do. Stay tuned. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the interior space. Now, much to my dismay, I thought the interior space of the Gladiator was actually smaller than the interior space of the Wrangler. But it turns out the interior space from the back of the back seats to the dashboard is the same exact amount of space. It just feels smaller in the Gladiator, obviously, because you have no additional space behind you like a traditional SUV. So that is one thing that I wanted to mention right off the bat, is the interior space is the exact same. So when you hop into a Gladiator, or if you're looking to get into a JL Wrangler, you're going to feel like the Gladiator is smaller. But after much research and the wonderful people on YouTube leaving me comments, I have discovered that there is no difference in the interior space between either of these two vehicles. Now, the one thing that does change is your interior storage space versus your exterior storage space. So if you're looking to get a Gladiator, you obviously know that that has a 5-foot truck bed, and that is completely open. Now, what you decide to do with that truck bed and how you decide to use it is entirely up to you, but it does offer you a lot more space for storage. The Wrangler, it only has what it has. Now, you can get creative by putting boxes on the roof and being different in the way that you carry your water and your gas. There are some creative ways to do that. But when it comes to the interior storage and the exterior storage, that is the big difference between these two vehicles, amongst other things, is that you have to decide how you're going to carry your gear in your Gladiator versus your Wrangler. Now, with your Wrangler, I have not had an opportunity to take all four of us on a trip in the Wrangler. We have only done trips in the Wrangler with 3 of us. Ever since the birth of my daughter, we have always traveled in the Gladiator because we do have to carry additional stuff now. And that was one of the big reasons we decided to get a Gladiator, is the fact that we know it's extremely capable, but is going to offer us more storage space, even though that storage space is not in the interior of the vehicle. So if space is not a real big deal for you, maybe there's only 2 of you, or maybe you have a family of 4 and additional space is a big deal. That is something you have to take into consideration when you're talking about buying a Jeep Gladiator versus buying a Jeep Wrangler. Now, the Wrangler does have more than enough space for a family of 4 to travel and to take all of your belongings and whatever additional gear that you have when you travel. Now, I see people do it all the time. For me, it would be extremely uncomfortable, and we would really be cramming things into the Wrangler that with the Gladiator, we have a lot more flexibility in how we can pack stuff in. Now, granted, we did have to spend an additional amount of money to get the RSI Smart Cap. Now, that Smart Cap is an enclosed space. I'm sure you know what a Smart Cap is. If not, I'm showing it to you now. The Smart Cap gives us more space, and it keeps everything dry. It essentially turns a truck into an SUV without the ability of accessing your gear that's in the rear of the vehicle from the interior of the vehicle. So if you're a family of 2 or you are a family of 4, I think that's going to be something that you're going to have to consider. A lot of people travel in a Wrangler as a family of 4. For us in the Jeep Gladiator, having a family of 4 is a lot easier because it affords us more opportunity to carry more gear, and if anybody has a baby, you know what that's like. Another thing that you should strongly consider before purchasing whether a Jeep Wrangler or a Jeep Gladiator is the difference in lengths of the two vehicles. Now, the Jeep Wrangler is 188 inches long, and that is the 4-door version. Now, the Jeep Gladiator is 218 inches long in the Rubicon trim, and I believe it doesn't matter what trim, it's the same exact footprint. So when you start taking stuff like that into consideration, that makes a huge difference on the trail. If you have a smaller, shorter vehicle, you're able to navigate tight trails a lot easier. In the Gladiator, we were just on a trip down to Expo East, and I had issues trying to navigate tight switchbacks, especially if you're in 4 high or 4 low. Your turning radius is already diminished by being in one of those two options. So what I'd have to do is pull up the trail, back down the trail, and then I was able to make the turn on that switchback. So there's differences almost of 3 feet in the length of the Wrangler versus the Gladiator. And that's something that I would take into consideration as you start to travel more and you put more miles on the trail. You will see that a shorter vehicle is much more nimble and it's much easier to navigate down tight trails. If that's not something that concerns you, or maybe you're an expert in off-road, then I wouldn't take too much to consideration with that. But it's something that you should definitely think about. Do you want a smaller, shorter, more nimble vehicle, or do you want to sacrifice having a more nimble vehicle for a longer, less nimble vehicle with more storage space? So now, after we start talking about the difference in lengths, there are some other measurements that are extremely important for you to know. Now, if you're looking to get a Gladiator, the Gladiator approach angle is 43.6 degrees. And if you don't understand departure, breakover, and approach angle, it's something you should definitely look up. Now, your breakover angle is 20.3 degrees, and your departure angle is 26 degrees. So, in comparison to the Wrangler, where it has a much shorter wheelbase, so you increase all of those numbers, and a higher degree number is a much better thing because it allows you to navigate more steep rock faces. It allows you to go over obstacles that may be higher and you have more of a breakover angle so you don't get hung up on those. Now, the Wrangler has a 43.9 degree approach angle, which is only 0.3 of a degree in difference, which is not a big deal. Both of the front bumpers in the front of these vehicles are nearly identical, minus a couple of points. Now, your breakover angle is where things start to really change. You have a 20.3 in the Gladiator and you have a 22.6 in the Wrangler. That almost 2 degree difference is a big difference when you're talking about going over obstacles that are sticking out in the middle of the trail. Now, the last one that you got to look at, which is a really large difference, is your departure angle. Now, your departure angle for the Gladiator, like I said, is 26 degrees, and your departure angle for the Wrangler is 37 degrees. So if you think about that, that's an 11 degree difference in your departure angle. So not only do you sacrifice the ability to be more nimble in a Gladiator, you're also giving up the ability to be more functional on the trail. Some would say that. I haven't had any issues with it being a problem yet, but I can imagine there are going to be instances when I'm going down maybe like a waterfall or something of that nature and I'm dragging that bumper across. That's something that I'm willing to live with, to have greater interior or exterior storage space and a greater tow capacity. So as I briefly mentioned, we're talking now about tow capacity, and the tow capacity in these two vehicles is a very big difference. The Gladiator tows 7,500 pounds, or is rated to tow 7,500 pounds, where the Wrangler is only weighted to tow 3,500 pounds. So if you are somebody who tows a small camper, if you're somebody who tows a trailer to get stuff done around the house, whatever that may be, you have to understand the difference in the tow capacities is a pretty significant difference. Now, the only thing that really makes up that difference is the difference in the frame between the Wrangler and the Gladiator, because something I was going to mention later is the fact that these two motors are the exact same motor. They are both the 3.6 liter motors that have been coming standard in Jeeps now for several years. So you're not getting any more beef out of your motor, you're only getting that out of your frame, and your payload is increased because the Gladiator is now a truck. So if towing's not something you're too concerned with, it doesn't really play a part in your day-to-day life, then I wouldn't base your decision on towing whatsoever. If it does, and you are going to be towing over 3,500 pounds on a regular basis, or even occasionally, the Gladiator is really your only option if you want to have a real off-road vehicle that can also do some towing. Another thing to consider is the weight of the two vehicles. Now, the Gladiator weighs 5,050 pounds, where the Wrangler weighs 4,222 pounds. So you're roughly almost 1,000 pounds difference in just the vehicle's weight. That does not include the stuff that you put in it. But the difference of the GVRW, which is the gross vehicle weight rating, is also only 1,000 pounds. Now, the Wrangler's gross vehicle weight rating is 5,350 pounds, and the Gladiator's gross vehicle weight rating is 6,250 pounds. So when you break that down, you pretty much have 1,000 additional pounds that you can place in each vehicle to stay within the safe limits of the vehicle's weight. And I know that this is a hotly debated topic, and I can tell you right now, my Gladiator weighs more than the gross vehicle weight rating, especially once you put two full-grown adults as well as the children, the smart cap, the tent, the deck system, all of our tools, the refrigerators, the food, the storage boxes, everything you put in that vehicle. I have not taken the plunge and gone to a scale yet to see what we weigh when we're completely loaded out, but I am going to guess it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,000-ish pounds. But that same amount of weight is stuff that we put in the Wrangler when we were just traveling in the Wrangler. Obviously we had one less child, so that made things a little bit different, but you want to be careful to stay within those GVWRs, just because it's a lot of pressure on your brakes. It's a lot more strain on your motor. Everything is stressed more when you have more weight, but it's a 1,000 pounds difference between the weight of the Gladiator and the weight of the Wrangler, and they are safely assuming you can put an additional 1,000 pounds into each one of these vehicles before you take off on your trip. Whether you stay within those limits, I know most people don't, but that's something I'll leave up to you. Okay, so while we're diving into all these numbers, something I wanted to talk about is the miles per gallon per vehicle. And oddly enough, Jeep has listed that the Gladiator actually receives better miles per gallon on the highway. They say the Gladiator should get 27 miles per gallon on the highway, where the Wrangler only gets 26 miles per the gallon. But they also say both of them should get 21 miles to the gallon in the city. Now, what I have to say about that is it's completely inaccurate. It's just not right. It doesn't matter. The point being is you're not going to see a big difference in your gas mileage whether you go with the Gladiator or you go with the Wrangler. So if you're being budget conscious and you're thinking about, well, how much can I save or how much more am I going to spend on the gas, I get, when I'm loaded down, anywhere from 13 to 15 miles per gallon on the highway and anywhere from 12 to 14 in the city in both of these vehicles. And I've come to live with it because what the vehicles give me outside of miles per gallon is the ability to pretty much go anywhere I want. And for me and my family, that's more important than how much we're spending on gas. So one thing that is extremely important in my opinion is the fact that both of these vehicles, when it comes to their off-road capabilities, are very, very similar. Both of them come with a front and rear locker. Both of them come with the automatic sway bar disconnect. So you're not losing or gaining any off-road capability in terms of the functions that you get with each one of these vehicles that you would if you were to go with something entirely different. So both of them come with the same exact off-road features and the same exact on-road features. Nothing in those two categories changes whatsoever. So now that you're armed with all of that information, before you go out and make your big purchase, whether it be the Jeep Gladiator or the Jeep Wrangler, I'm going to tell you my opinion. And for what it's worth, we are tomorrow trading the Wrangler in on a new vehicle that I'm bringing to the channel that I'm super, super excited about. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I would love for you to guess what it is in the comments. And we're getting rid of this because honestly, the Gladiator is just better for our family. And even if we only had two of us, I would still go with the Gladiator. It just gives you more options to carry more gear. It gives you more options with the truck bed. As you may have seen on our previous videos, Cohen, we have a 3-inch memory foam mattress that we put on top of the deck system inside the Gladiator and on the truck bed, and he gets a chance to sleep in there while myself, my wife, and my daughter all sleep up in the tent. So it just gives us more. I don't know if that's going to be the best choice or the best decision for you, but for us, the Jeep Gladiator is absolutely hands down the way to go. Now all I'm waiting on is Jeep to bring a 392 to the Gladiator, because that would be an absolute game changer, and that's something I would have to think long and hard about. But if this video was helpful, guys, I would really appreciate you giving it a like and leaving a comment about what you think. We've had both of these vehicles for a while. I feel confident in talking about this topic, and if it were me and I were to do it all over again, I would have got the Gladiator from the very beginning and never got the Wrangler. Even though the Wrangler is absolutely incredibly capable, the Gladiator just suits our lifestyle better. So appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.